looking ahead, right? So where do we stand now? I don't know where to position myself for you to see. Yeah, there will be a surplus in 25, 26. But let's remember one thing. This surplus is mainly based on the difference between world production and world consumption, right? So the world production minus world consumption is pointing for next season to about 4 million tons, okay, raw value. This season was in a small deficit, probably 700,000 tons. Others were working with bigger consumption. We were a bit reticent on this consumption growth because we've seen it was not really there. And then prices are indicating that we weren't there. Why still, I received a question 2 days ago, why we were in 2024-25 in 700,000 tons deficit on the S&D only, when market collapsed to 16 cents or 15 cents. Yeah, it's very easy to answer this question. Here we didn't consider anything, any stocks, any export availability. So that's just a simple figure on production and consumption. Plus a lot of sugar was mainly lost in India. And then we know that in India, the government is playing a very important role into regulating import-exports. Now, we have some scenarios also for the next season, only on S&D. What if Brazil will produce more than we have in our numbers? And this is the orange bar here. Or what if there would be a lower Thai crop, the red bar? What if there will be a lower Indian crop? I'm not insisting too much on the numbers, but okay, a lower Indian crop compares to what we have means about 31 million tons of net sugar. We are working with 32, could be a bit more now because they allocated a bit less on ethanol, but we never know. We need to see how the crop evolves. All right, so that's potential scenarios. Now, out of these 4 million tons, again, we can say that about 3 million tons at least will be locked in India. India will not export everything that will produce, okay? So people are expecting 6 million tons of Indian production growth year on year, but from 6 million tons, not everything will go out, right? And we will see in the Indian slides. So I'm going a bit faster now. We see consumption growth of about 0.77% this season, so meaning 25, 26, October, September, compared to just 0.4% increase in the previous year. Why? Because always when you have a correction, a big correction in prices, there is a tendency worldwide to use more sugar. And there are people that can switch between different corn syrup or whatever other sugar sweeteners to sugar, and this can happen in Asia or in other parts of the world. So consumption growth a tad higher on here, and this is a bit encouraging, right? Like it's not so subdued as this year. Now, another thing is that South American availability, which is the gray bar here on the how you look at the left-hand side, the difference between production and consumption in the Americas is about to be 32 million tons, okay? This compares to 32.9. So it will be a lower availability. Why? Because we are working with a lower sugar mix in Brazil. And I think we are among the guys that are having the lower sugar mix for the next season. Okay, it's a bit below 49%. Then we have also another problem that is leading to this situation. The orange bars here represent Asian balance, right? So for Asia, we go from 16 million tons of deficit to just 8 million tons of deficit. This is half. That means that probably they will not need so much import, but don't forget that this increase in production is coming from two countries mainly, which is India and Thailand, Indian sugar will remain locked in, most of it, and Thai is not sure. So they will still need to import some, right? Europe to be in deficit, but not as a deficit as big as firstly put in the numbers. We were working with a deficit of about 1.5, 1.6 million tons in whole Europe, including UK and Russia, Ukraine, everything. So now it's only a 1.3. Some are talking about 1 million ton deficit in Europe. So that's with regional things. What we should expect now in terms of export availability. Now we are moving a bit slowly to the trade flows, and then we see higher availability on raws. This is mainly due to Brazil and to the fact that still the surplus this year hasn't been solved yet. So we still have some raw sugar hanging around. Unfortunately, the Brazilian producers didn't react when prices were 19 cents at the beginning of the year, and then it looked like we are going into a bearish year. They didn't price. It would have been very well to price at 19 and listen to other people too. And now they are suffering because they have to price at 15. So you have to study a bit your position and then let somebody else neutral tell you the truth, but the truth, not something with interest, right? So 42 million tons of surplus of export availability for raws, while on whites, you see, on whites was very interesting because we had an export availability of about 27 million tons in 23-24, then it dropped to 25.9 because white premium was not helping, and then for the next season we will be a bit, I mean, probably at the same level as last year, maybe a bit more, due to accumulated stocks mainly in Europe and in Ukraine, but it's not much more, right? The market overreacted, I think, when white premium collapsed recently. Maybe it's not a reason now to collapse, I mean, to go below $95, because nobody is encouraged, and we will see on the trade flows, to do more sugar, more white sugar. So now the old sugar stock to use ratio went a tad higher from the previous year to 48%, and maybe will go to 50%. But don't forget that in the calculation of this 50%, we have also the unsolved destinations for raw sugar that we're gonna see now. So now another chart shows you how is the seasonal demand for raw sugar in Asia, right? Always in Q3, Asia asks for a lot of sugar. Then we are having a period, Q1, Q2, where they're not so interested in importing too much sugar. Sometimes Indonesia release licenses late, and then they only start importing from February. Sometimes, okay, if they really need sugar, they start importing and have a good Q1 number, but you will never see a good Q1 import number for China, for example. They don't take more than 300,000 tons in Q1, right? Whereas in Q3, we have a big demand. And then that's reflected here in the raw sugar import demand. Asia probably will still remain close to 18 million tons. And then the world starts to react to lower prices. Probably we will go up from 39.6 to 41.1. There is an implicit growth in consumption and a reduction of stocks. Now let's look at the raw trade flows. So the raw trade flows look like this, okay? What we are indicating here, that we have an unsolved 200,000 tons of, we have to identify the destination for these 200,000 tons still, and then the real consumption also for this. And then we have a bar of about 870K surplus in raws for Q4. Now, Q1 looks a bit more constructive because of Brazil. Brazil will not have too much to export in Q1, maybe 4 million tons, that's it. And going forward, okay, we have a small surplus. If we do it cumulatively, and we take the surplus from Q4 and we go forward, like this surplus will not be solved in Q4 but moved all forward, we have a surplus.